everything from Crazy Stupid Love to Blade Runner to La La Land to Barbie to everything. Fall Guy, he's done such a breadth of it, worked with so many different types of people, lots of different types of filmmakers as well who have very, very distinctive styles. His ability to adapt in those situations and for the performance to be so effortless, that's what we kind of see, right? From an audience perspective, it sometimes feels like we choose what projects we want to. And honestly, as actors, we don't have as much choice as
Mm,
it comes across as being, right? I've auditioned for things and wanted them and not gotten them. I watched a large combination of like Hollywood, British film, TV, and Bollywood, Indian cinema, Indian TV, and so that was a large part of the thing that inspired me to do what I do and
yeah.
to want to be a performer, to want to, I still, love to dance.
Okay, so today's interview has been one which I have been very eagerly anticipating because it's not someone who's just a regular talent who is doing magnificently well on the mainstream front of cinema, but is someone who I have actually over the few years have managed to create this very beautiful bond. And she is someone who is a fellow Guju, who is someone who is
I'm sure.
extremely brilliant at her craft, and I think the less is said, the better, because honestly, I feel like the words are not even justifying the caliber that she has at the moment. And that is, of course, Priya Kansara. So, Priya, a warm welcome to you on Filmy Shilmy. It's so good to finally be doing this with you.
Thank you so much, Anuj. I'm so happy to be here. And thank you for that really, really kind introduction. That's very, very generous of you.
Before we go into the interview, I really want to publicly acknowledge one thing. So there was a big high profile event that me and Priya were at recently, and in November time. And I was not feeling the best. Like I was not feeling very good and I was feeling very down. But Priya actually was there and making sure that I was okay and making me feel a lot better. Well, she could have been using that same time to network and do other stuff. So I think that is exactly what Priya Kansara is. And I think that can also form the landscape of my first question actually to Priya. Is it, you are someone who really does have this very deep compassion, empathy, and you have a very beautiful soul, which is so rare to have in this industry. This definitely seems to be a very natural God's gift to you, I think, right? And how important has that foundation been for you as an artist, I think, throughout the years?
Well, firstly, I just want to say in relation to that story, this is so kind of you to say, Anuj, but you weren't feeling great that day, and you chose to spend the time that I was sitting with you, making sure that you grabbed everyone you could and told them who I was.
Oh my God, yeah.
You literally did. You were like publicity 101 at that point. And I was like, that's so kind of you. Like, you don't have to do that. Like, we can just have a one-on-one. And
And also that including is one of the top filmmakers of India as well. That was in that same room, and I was like, it had to be said. But no, yes.
so I thank you for that and for your energy that you give. Even if your tank is low, you would still choose to give it. So that's so kind of you to say to me as well. And um I think like compassion wise, firstly, I guess we all have our bad days, right? It's sort of not always there. If I'm hungry, if I'm tired, I might not be able to give so much time. But I I think compassion is like kind of it's not even kind of it is one of the most important things you have to be as an actor. Like I have to be non-judgmental and I have to be kind to these characters, to these worlds, and to these people. Um, it's so important that I don't judge these people. It's so important that I'm curious and inquisitive and I'm compassionate towards them because it allows me to play them authentically. It allows me to play them without judgment. And so, actually, I think it's really interesting. I mean, I think fundamentally my compassion and kindness has been taught to me through my family and my loved ones. But I think it's only been heightened because I do acting, if that makes sense. Like the actual craft has taught me to do those things as well, and it like reminds me to do it in a way. especially again, if you're like hungry or tired, it's okay
No,
to remember.
absolutely. But I think it's interesting because, I feel like this is also a very good segue into Project Hail Mary because in a way, the film really talks about that, doesn't it? It talks about that whole relationship between man and technology, especially in today's day and age where, AI has literally taken over the world and is taking over the world. I shouldn't say has taken over the world. That'll cause an absolute hysteria in the public. But I think it's interesting how it kind of symbolizes that energy. And you are a very that voice itself, right? You're not seen, but that voice itself has a big impact, and it is almost like an instrumental character essentially, and it is the main character, so to speak. Um, for you, obviously, I remember watching a few red carpet interviews that you did, and when you got the call that you were gonna do the part, obviously Ryan Gosling was gonna be in the film. I mean, that was all great, but I think for you, from a opportunity perspective as well as the character perspective, uh, what was your instinct actually in terms of saying yes for the project? Because I'm sure obviously it's a combination of both, right? It's about opportunity as well as context.
Oh, 100%. So, I mean, I think there's so many reasons why we say yes to jobs. There's so many reasons why we might say no to jobs, right? And for me, one of the main things about this job, one, I love Andy Weir's books, and I love, I love Project Hail Mary as the story. But two, to work with these people who I have admired for a really, really long time, whose work I've admired. I get to be on set with them every day. I get to learn from them. I get to collaborate with them, and I get to expand my knowledge, my experience, my creativity through them. And that is like, that's priceless. That's not something we always get the opportunity to do. And I knew I couldn't say no to that. Phil and Chris, Phil Lord and Christopher Miller are directors, have done work that I've had from like 21, 22 Jump Street, from Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, all of those things like I've loved so much. And right through to Spider-Verse, right? Like Ryan Gosling, Greg Fraser, Andy Weir, Drew Goddard, Amy Pascal, all of these people who are like the best in the business. They're the people that everyone only dreams of being in the same room and I was given that offer. Now, I just think that I would have been so dumb and also so sad if I had not said yes and looked
Oh,
back at what this project became and realized that I could have been a part of that and I could have learned from that because it was a beast of a movie even within the making process, and so I learned a lot watching these people work. It was amazing.
do you know what? And you were really good in it as well, of
Thank
course.
you.
I mean,
Thanks.
that goes without saying. But I think also, I think voice is a very interesting aspect of acting. And nowadays, I feel like there's a lot more of a spotlight on music than there is on movies nowadays, especially from the Indian side. I kind of like the fact that we're seeing this spotlight back on the voice and how
Yeah.
sounds can really evoke emotions because we've seen quite a lot. In fact, I think we've pretty much seen everything that there is currently on the visual space, but audio is something which kind of is yet to be explored in a more in-depth way. So I guess for you, being the voice, I would love to know how important it was to act with the voice and the key sort of tips that were given to you by the director, by the team as well, to ensure that not only it comes out in a very good manner, but also in a way that's kind of that expands your horizons as a performer as well, a little, you know?
Oh, I guess one of the interesting things as an actor is that you know, acting, sometimes we say acting is reacting, where like, we are taking in a situation, a circumstance, a specific like stimulus, and then we're responding to that, right? And we're doing that as authentically as we can within that character's kind of realm. Now, what's interesting is that the specificity of this character is really important, but also I'm not emotional. She's a robot. She's a tech piece of technology. And so, I remember watching and reacting to scenes that were hugely emotional and having to like stop myself from allowing that to come out in my voice. So kind of recalibrating my brain, taking the information in as a human being to like process it and immediately try to understand how would a computer respond to this information, because they wouldn't respond to it in an emotional way, and not they don't have the emotional capacity to deal with that. So um like how would she process the words that are given, the tone in which it's given, the volume, the breath work. Those are the kind of like, things that a computer would register and therefore then give an answer. So if Ryan was breathing heavy, if he seemed stressed, then I think a computer could understand that the like vocal quality was stressed. They wouldn't be able to respond in an empathetic way. At least we
Mm.
didn't want, this was a conversation we had with the directors, with was how empathetic should this be? How intelligent is this artificial intelligence? How, so we tried to create those boundaries together to understand what Mary's kind of boundaries are, like what is the box in which she sits in, because that has to be really specific. She's not an evolving being. So um that was a really big thing with the way in which we curated that and figured out the vocal quality as well that she has. Like how they wanted her to be quite happy, like annoyingly so. So like Grace and Rocky are going through a difficult time, but she'll be like, she'll still respond really happily, even when there's an emergency, which can only be slightly more. Just to add to the humor of it as well, they wanted that. They love leaning into the humor of it all as well. And so that was really fun too. That was it was a lot of like little bits that I think now on introspection, you're like, whoa, there were so many things and elements that we kind of put together to make her happen. So
Absolutely. No, very beautiful. And I think it's such an art, isn't it, to really act from the voice and to really understand the psychology of technology,
yeah.
of a
Yeah.
robot, which I think is so fascinating. But also, I watched a video where I think Ryan Gosling did an interview with Hrithik Roshan, and it was so cute because they were like, I think Hrithik was talking about Koi Mil Gaya, and
Yeah.
Ryan was talking about his journey in sort of Project Hail Mary as well as sci-fi, and I think it was so nice, and I think that was really telling, especially with you being in the film as well, because there is that whole Hollywood American feel, but then there's also you being the South Asian representation within that film as well. Like how Ritik had a bit of a fanboy moment. I think definitely he did. You must have definitely had a fangirl moment as well. I'm sure, but I think more than the fangirl moment, I think what I'm definitely really curious to know is about from the performance wise how Ryan's body of work and the sort of way he does his craft and the vast experience he has, and also in a way is enriching for you, especially because you have worked with so many great, great talents within the industry as well. Yeah.
I think one of the things that I've always admired about Ryan's work is his versatility. Um, everything from Crazy Stupid Love to Blade Runner to La La Land to Barbie to everything. Fall Guy, he's done such a breadth of it, worked with so many different types of people, lots of different types of filmmakers as well, who have very, very distinctive styles. His ability to adapt in those situations and for the performance to be so effortless. You know, uh, that's what we kind of see, right? And what is really interesting as an actor is to go onto set and understand how did they get there? Like, I don't know that process. I don't know what he's like working with on set. Um, Firstly, I can vouch he's a lovely, lovely man and was only ever the kindest and most like open person. He was so generous with his time. Like I would ask him questions in between takes and was always happy to kind of, indulge me and like, give me tips or help me to understand his thought process on something. Um, but one of the things that I think was so incredible watching him on Hail Mary was that he holds the story in his head like consistently, all of it. Like he knows exactly where he is, exactly what beats he's previously played, what ideas he had, what his character went through, what his struggles were, what he wants to overcome to where he's going next. And also doesn't just do that from a narrow like character perspective, but understands it within the grand scheme of the film.
Right.
So as actors, I think we can sometimes be like kind of tunnel visioned into what our work is with the character itself, and we forget that we fit into a larger like story, right?
Correct.
Whereas Ryan's capacity to hold all of these things in his head all the time was just unbelievable. Like his ability to improv on the spot, not just for an additional 2 minutes, but for an additional 40 minutes at a time, right? You just keep going. And that's really impressive to be able to go that far and still not lose it, like lose what you're doing
Of
and not
course.
forget who they are in this world. And he's doing that on top of like stunt work with, the zero gravity stuff and working with a puppet and working with voices in his ears and like all of this kind of stuff. So I really that was amazing to see and then for to kind of learn off and you know yeah that was I mean you can't really ask for anything better, right? As an actor, it's just like a
Absolutely.
masterclass on set.
You
So
know, that's the best thing, actually. And you've worked with some really, really top talents as well. And I think that's what I find really fascinating. But what I also am really impressed by is actually the body of work that you've managed to accomplish in your journey so far. Priya, you've done, shows on Netflix. Obviously, Bridgerton was a big breakthrough for you. You've done obviously Polite Society, which we will talk about, of course. Now, obviously, now you've done Project Hail Mary. There's so much. I mean, what I find really interesting is that you are, in a way, representing this almost alternate reality in genre bending content, And I think that's something which you've managed to master very well. Like Bridgerton, for example, is a romance costume period drama, but yet it's also very contemporary in its appeal and it kind of spins history on its head, essentially, with the representation that's there.
yeah,
Similarly with Polite Society, it's got like a martial arts sort of backdrop, and it really is spinned on its head the whole South Asian and female taking the lead twist.
yeah,
Project Hail Mary again is sci-fi, it's got that whole futuristic feel to it, but again, with you being in it, it kind of giving a very different sort of diverse twist to it. Is this something which you always intentioned to accomplish in terms of the body of work that you have done and the genre specifically, or is it just something that has just stood the test of time and destiny, kismet, as we call it?
there was a bit of kismet involved. I think I would like to say that I've been incredibly lucky. There's almost a little bit of a kind of this like rose tinted glass. I think from an audience perspective, it sometimes feels like we choose what projects we want to. And honestly, as actors, we don't have as much choice as
Mm,
it comes across as being, right? Like I've auditioned for things and wanted them and not gotten them, like not got the roles. I've auditioned for things, not known I was going to get them and got them. I've like not known whether something was going to work out in my favor, given it a long shot, and it's worked out in my favor. And other things have been like, it's such a combination of things. And whilst I try to be strategic in the way in which I approach my career, so I know there are things that I definitely say that I won't do, right? But um the combinations of things that have fallen into my lap and that have come my way and that I have received and gotten, um, I feel that feels like that feels like kismet. That feels like destiny in a way because I feel so lucky to have been able to do each and every single project that I've done. Like they've all taught me something very different. I've been able to explore different things. They've been genre bending and interesting, and I played women that I think are inspiring, that I want to represent. They tell interesting stories and I have gotten really lucky in that, I would say. Yeah, I can't claim to I can't claim to have like pushed for something like I didn't even know Project Hail Mary was like on the horizon. That just came like
Of
that
course.
just came my way. And I mean it was a matter of me saying yes or no. And I think I would have been crazy to say no. And for polite, I auditioned and I didn't know if I was going to get it. I think I auditioned a few times and I was like, this would be a really cool thing to do. I wonder if it'll happen. And I was lucky that all of those things fit together, both my interpretation of Ria, the director's vision, the producers, like everybody wanting us to work together as a team. And those are so many variables that need to like come together in order for that to happen. So yeah, I think it's a combination of like me trying to be strategic, but also me just getting lucky.
Oh wow, bless you. That's such an honest answer. Thank you for that. But no, you've done such a fab job in all of those things. But Polite Society, let's not forget that absolutely beautiful green outfit that you were wearing and the Mardala dance. I was like, you were channelizing your inner Madhuri Dixit in that, weren't you?
Yeah. Oh my God, 100%. I remember watching Devdas when I was a child. I remember watching Madhuri dance and wanting to dance like her. And then like I would practice, we would do, I don't know if you used to do, I'm just gonna probably sound crazy. But me and my cousins would get together and we'd do dance competitions and we'd like, yeah, and we'd play Bollywood songs and then each of us would come up and choose a song and would perform to the song and then like, and then we'll decide who wins. And the eldest cousin would just be diplomatic enough to let everyone win like one time after another. But like this was our childhood. And I watched a large combination of like Hollywood, British film, TV, and Bollywood, Indian cinema, Indian TV, and so that was a large part of the thing that inspired me to do what I do and to want to be a performer, to want to, I still, love to dance. And I remember being on that set that day and like it was just crazy. Like I went up to Nida the next day and I did just tell her, I was like, thank you. You literally made like my dreams come true because this is like who gets to do that? Who gets
Yeah.
who gets to reenact the thing that they saw in their head and thought that they were crazy for seeing in their head, and I got to do it in a really funny and fun way, which Ria obviously puts a spin on everything.
She
She gets.
does. No, she does. But I think it was really lovely. And I know you've mentioned as well that you do really aspire to work with Sanjay Leela Bhansali, the director of
Oh
the.
yeah, I've said that before. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's
So
cool.
I really hope that happens for you. But no, I'm glad you talked about Ria because Ria for me was revolutionary. You know, she was a rebel, but also at the same time, she was someone who really embraces who she is identity wise. And I feel like Priya, that's kind of been a streak in the characters you've also played. You know, there's a bit of rebellion that you have, but there's also that, like I said earlier, the compassion, the rooted aspect as well. So do you
Mhm.
feel like, as an artist, you in a way have to bring a bit of you in all the characters that you play, even if they are of a different spectrum and a different world as well?
Yeah, I think it kind of naturally happens. Um, so much of our understanding of these people come through our understanding and experience in life, right? Like I can understand Ria's ambition or determination. I can understand her anger, her love, all of those things through things that I also have experienced in my life. Even if they're different contextually, I know that feeling, right? And so I think naturally some bits of us just come out in them. There have been characters that I've played, like I did a show, Dope Girls, on BBC, and I played a character, Lily, who was incredibly different from me. And that was very transformational in terms of the way in which I had to approach that role and prep for it, right? So I think there was less of me in her, but I think within the process of finding her, there was a lot of me in it. So I think probably people still did see a tiny bit of me within that, if that's the case.
Mm.
Um, it's hard to tell actually. So sometimes I can't even tell. It just depends on how I get to them.
Fair. No, I understand. I think that's the thing about when you're acting. You don't really realize the impact it has until you've seen the product.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
But I think there's two-part question because I know we have to wrap up very soon. So, um, first part is we often talk about British Asian representation and South Asian representation largely in the West. And
Mhm.
there's often talks about, it's a lot better than what it used to be for sure. But then I still feel like we've got a very long way to go. But it's not just the West, though. I feel it's also the South Asians in power who are the ones who gatekeep and the ones who approve scripts, who are in the positions of power, who also do you think that the sort of battle is also within as well as external in terms of getting that whole equilibrium in the
Yeah.
entertainment industry? And secondly, very rarely we've seen a Gujarati representation of British Asians in mainstream cinema, especially on the TV front, in the film front as well. Being someone who you are very, very proud and loud of who you are and where you've come from, do you think that's something which you would also consider trying to implement should you get an opportunity to in terms of the mainstream space?
I mean, two great questions. I'll go in order so I don't forget.
Yes.
Um, so the first one, 100%, 100% that the continued work that we need to do comes from both within our community and outside of it. We all have our own internal biases, our own internal like understanding of what's wrong, what needs to be done, how we can help. And sometimes we have to remind ourselves to look outside of those, outside of ourselves and learn in order to expand that and make sure we are doing the most that we can be doing. So very many people at the top have been limited by the experiences that they have, or like have seen the industry grow in a specific way, make money in a specific way, or whatever it might be, have been told to use specific algorithms or patterns or like themes in order to continue growing the business. And the truth is that we can't keep doing that. We actually have to break outside of these things in order to create meaningful change. And that has to come from within our community as well as outside of it. I've seen people that I think are doing like leaps and bounds for like improving South Asian representation, and others that I feel like are missing a mark, not necessarily intentionally, but like could be doing more to make sure that they're reaching out their hands and bringing up a few more people as they go along, as they
Agreed.
go along the way. And I appreciate that comes at different points in people's careers as well. Sometimes I feel helpless as an actor because I'm not in the position of hiring or firing, for example. Whereas there are other ways in which I try to make sure that we do the best to embrace it, whether it's hiring correct translators, hiring correct dialect coaches, making sure that we're getting the authenticity of characters correct in the stuff that we're doing. And in terms of like me being Gujarati, and the specificity of me as a person and trying to represent that, absolutely. There's certain things that I'm like happy to learn as well and understand. And so I'm doing a show right now that's releasing in next month, Star City, and I play a Chadda. So she's
Nice.
North Indian. And but I made sure to get well, it was really important to me that we got the correct translators on board, somebody that could really help me to understand who she was, and also because it impacted other characters within the thing. So I wasn't gonna be like, she has to be Gujarati now, like cast somebody else like who can speak, like so within context that stuff has to be done as well, and trying to find the right balance of it. So whether it is as simple as like, well, why can't she be a Joshi or like a, or a
What?
Desai or a, or a Kansara? Like what does it
Kansara, exactly.
yeah, exactly. So um and rather than it being just a Diwali event, why couldn't it be a Navratri event? Why couldn't it be a Holi event? Why couldn't it be a Raksha Bandhan? Like we can do more than just that. There is more to us than just that as well. So trying to figure out how we can implement those things is really important as well. So I think that's something that I am still figuring out, to be honest, and like learning where I have the ability to speak about it and like implement that change,
Yeah.
and in other situations where I feel like that's not something that is logistically or like feasibly going to be able to be changed because of whatever other reasons, or I'm not in a position to be able to enforce that. So that balance is really important. And we just learn that as we go along, I think.
Yeah. You're doing very well though. And look, on that note, I'm gonna have to wrap up because I know you've got somewhere to be. But look, Priya, thank you so much. This has been such an amazing, amazing chat, and you've been such a tour de force. And I'm really happy to see the sort of growth and the trajectory that you're having. And God bless you always, and may you keep, uh, accomplishing much more. And well done for
So
really
much,
getting
Anuj.
so far.
Thank you. It was so good to talk to you, and you take care of yourself, and hopefully
You
I'll see
too. It
you
was so
soon.
nice to have a Ben Bunny actually for an interview. It was nice,
I
you know.
know.
Chal. All right then.
Hello, bye.
Bye. Audio.